You started working in government at 17 years old under a Philly legend, former City Councilwoman Marian Tasco. Can you walk us through your early beginnings briefly?
As a senior in high school, I became the first student in the history of the school district of Philadelphia to win 2 oratorical contests. One was the Black History Month, and the other was the Women's History Month oratorical competition. As a result of that, I met a lady, may she rest in peace, named Augusta Clark. She was the first Democratic woman elected at large in the City Council of Philadelphia, the first Black Democratic woman elected at large. And they decide, we see something in you. And they sort of adopted me and got me engaged in, learning how to serve the public. And, sometimes, Carlos, people make fun of how I communicate. Sometimes people make fun about my passion. And, she's always so intense. But if you started where I started from in life, and you had a village or a community, a city that deposited so much in you, you would know why I'm so passionate about what I do. So when you start there, I don't know if you did that on purpose or not, but you start from a very important, meaningful place in my life, because I'm not here without them. I am super proud that when it comes to the LGBTQIA community, when it comes to unions and working families, when it comes to affordable housing and home preservation and public safety, commercial quarters, all of those issues were issues that I've been working on, quite frankly, my entire life, long before I was ever elected to public office. But I got an opportunity to lead during my tenure in the Pennsylvania House that I started in 2005. So since that time, I have a very demonstrable track record in working in these areas. Not always, Carlos, in front of the camera. Not always on social media, sometimes leading from behind the scenes, putting people together. So when I say, I'm proud to not be a Johnny-come-lately for whatever the issue is, that means Cherelle Parker's, referencing her strong intergovernmental experience and her long-term advocacy for whatever the issue is.
Well, you've gone on to build an expansive political record, and I want to talk about that record for a bit as we get into the subjects. That record in City Council includes you vice chairing the committees for commerce and economic development. So on the topic of small business, what are the inroads that the mayor would most urgently need to make to kickstart Philly small business, the Philly small business environment?
So when I talk about small businesses, I want you to know I'm talking about 2 distinct kinds. I'm talking about the ones who have a significant amount of skin in the game because they are leasing, renting, or owning brick and mortar establishments in neighborhoods across the city of Philadelphia, especially those who are a part of our neighborhood commercial quarters, and that has been a passion of mine. The other group is a group of small businesses who, may function in lease building space somewhere, or even work out of their homes, or the entrepreneurs who have lots of great ideas, but they lack 2 things that particularly the Black and brown small business owners who grew up in a low wealth environment where there is not a lot of disposable income, where you didn't have access to Wall Street like networks. What's the likelihood that some folks who can make some private equity investments or some venture capitalists who will say, look, great idea, sound plan, I'm gonna hedge my bets and support you. We gotta close the gap between the haves and the have-nots. I'm gonna make sure we do that.
You've spoken that you would appoint a managing deputy mayor to that effect to address black business development, particularly in the city. Would you be so kind as to remind us who you would appoint and what the specific directives would be be for that appointee?
We talked about a deputy mayor for minority business growth and development here in the city of Philadelphia, very specifically tasked with figuring out how we will increase the amount of minorities doing business with the city of Philadelphia and in the city of Philadelphia. Somebody's saying, well, wait a minute, she would only be the mayor. She can't control what happens in the private sector. Well, factually, you're absolutely right. I can't control it. But as the mayor, I wouldn't just be the CEO of the city of Philadelphia. I would be the cheerleader in chief. And if we look at mayors in the past who we thought were extremely successful, one of the things that they did really well was they used the convening power of the mayor's office in order to bring people together. And I'll tell you, I think the private sector, I think they're looking for that kind of leadership. They're waiting for it to happen, but it is the mayor's responsibility to do that as the CEO and the cheerleader in chief. So it's the CEO and the CIC, all right? And Cherelle Parker will be both.
Local government in Philly makes it very difficult to run that business as a beginning entrepreneur. I think it's great that you have an idea to involve the private sector and venture capitalists and hedge funds, but how can you ease that burden from government regulations itself?
A modern model that will allow me as a small business to compete, not just here in Philadelphia, but in our global economy, is one that is highly technical and app-based friendly. I want you to think about why it is that I can use an app on my phone to figure out how far Uber is from my house, but I can't determine when my trash is getting picked up. I can't determine where my permit is, where my application for my business privilege license is. We have to be more efficient, and we can build those models, but we can't be afraid of change, and we've got to communicate with our workforce. So we need innovation from the public, from the small business community, streamlining rules and regulations governing how we do business. And we have to walk and chew gum at the same time, you know, and make sure we get it all done. You need a mayor who can get that done.